They don't jump fences. Any fence is a barrier, pretty much. It's a wall that they don't cross.
We almost lost our full pronghorn population very quickly.
Certainly.
Good morning and welcome to this episode of the Building Texas Show. Today we're in Alpine, Texas, talking to Lalo Gonzalez about everything Borderlands Research. And the Borderlands Research Institute came across my desk in their annual report, and they're doing some amazing work, particularly around the pronghorn population out in the West Texas region, and then just everything Big Bend in general. So Lalo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm a big fan. We've talked to the mayor of Alpine in the past. Alpine is definitely getting more and more attention with the growth of Sul Ross, with the growth of interest in West Texas. But how did you end up in Alpine, Texas?
The same way half the town arrives here, the university. We're a very small town, but the town lives and thrives through the university itself. And I came here to study wildlife. I grew up in a small ranch thinking that I wanted to be a vet, and then went to school, realized chemistry was not going to be my friend, and vet school was not going to be an option for me. So ended up in wildlife conservation, and throughout my undergrad, I kept hearing about this small, remote university in far West Texas. It was a growing program. It was very interesting to me, the wildlife that they had access to and the conservation issues that West Texas was facing, very similar to the rest of the state of Texas. So I ended up coming. I was very fortunate to be selected to the grad program in 2011. So I came and studied quail, blue quail, for a couple years, got my master's, and ended up getting a PhD in desert bighorn sheep restoration, helping Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Very similar to the pronghorn story, of the diminish and then the increase in population. Truly a success stories, full of challenges, but here we are, years later as faculty in Sul Ross.
Well, I appreciate the story, but let's dive into pronghorns a little bit, because I think that's a story where I really started taking notice of your work.
Certainly. Populations in West Texas of pronghorn were historically thriving, but we noticed a couple decades of continued decline in populations for pronghorn. Other parts of Texas did not seem to be hurting as much. The Panhandle is a good example where populations were fairly stable, if not growing, across the region in the Panhandle, but very different ecosystems with very different challenges. West Texas suffers very similar challenges for conservation than other parts of the Southwest. Habitat fragmentation being a big one for pronghorn, and the increase in brush, desertification, so brush encroachment. The big issue with those two particular issues with pronghorn is pronghorn are very different than deer. They don't jump fences. They physically can. They just seem to not like doing it. So any fence is a barrier, pretty much. It's a wall that they don't cross. So as we continue to see fragmentation, we see the access to land become smaller and smaller and smaller. And then within that smaller acreage they have access to, throughout the last few decades, we see this increase in brush that doesn't allow for pronghorn to feel safe. They're the very opposite of a white-tailed deer. You think of a white-tailed deer, South Texas, brush country, they want brush. That's how they evolved to feel protected by hiding in the brush. Well, pronghorn did the opposite. They decided to bet on open space where they can see far away. So if they can't see far away, they don't feel protected, and it doesn't provide the food also. So they're very particular on the habitat they require, and then very particular on the type of vegetation or food they want, which is 90+% forbs, just these little tiny weeds, high in protein that they really seek for. So they have less space and they have less food to get to those areas. So we saw this decline in populations for decades, mainly for those two reasons. And then 2010, 2011, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and the landowners of West Texas truly decided enough was enough. They did not want to lose those populations on their watch. So we were the science behind that to support them and their efforts. So 2010, 2011 is really where they launched a fairly aggressive restoration efforts on translocating animals from North Texas. So from the Panhandle, who had a whole lot more populations that were thriving, they were actually causing some issues because they have a whole lot of irrigation.
Yeah.
So all the pronghorn were going to the alfalfa fields because it's just a lot of food available to them. So the landowners were ready to let some of them go. So over the years, they translocated around 1,000 animals to West Texas. A lot of efforts to move those animals across a decade uh, to the grasslands, Marathon, and Marfa grasslands. But there's also a lot of efforts locally to increase access to land. So what Parks and Wildlife has done is they partner with local landowners. And because the pronghorn don't jump the fence, they can go under the fence. So they raised the fence in the bottom to knee high, about 18 inches, and then the pronghorn can walk under it without causing any issues with livestock. So that was one, and then fairly aggressive restoration of habitat, trying to decrease brush and supporting landowners on how to do that. So those have been the three pillars of the restoration program, in my opinion, is the translocation of animals, and then the fence work to wildlife friendly fences that we call them, and then truly trying to handle the brush encroachment to allow for more areas of habitat for pronghorn.
Now, I've seen the landowner be a critical part of this formula because landowners like Nyle Maxwell have put a lot into removing historic fence from their property and growing their properties through conservation and other tools, really to help bring that population back. And the landowner is an important piece of the conversation around conservation in West Texas.
And West Texas and the rest of the state of Texas. Uh, Texas is 95% privately owned. So conservation starts and ends with landowners. So without their support, there is no conservation to be made in the state of Texas. But in our experience, landowners are the best conservationists. They're the best stewards of the land. There are very few people that care more about land than those that own the land. So we've been very lucky, very fortunate to work with people like Nyle Maxwell for many years. He is a great example beyond just pronghorn, how supportive he is, science, education, opening the gates to Parks and Wildlife and ourselves. But certainly there's many examples of people there uh, helping these populations that truly need it.
Now, we've talked about pronghorn and we've moved through that season for them. What other species or what other research is Borderlands focused on today?
Well, we're expanding. Our backyard is West Texas, so from El Paso to Del Rio, this is our home. This is our backyard. It's our focus is here. With growth of faculty, we've experienced some growth geographically too. Our range is expanding. So now we have research going all the way to Gulf of Mexico, Kansas, Montana, Canada, northern Mexico. So our geographical region has increased, but again, 90% of our work remains to be West Texas. West Texas is very unique, is a very beautiful, very diverse landscape, but with it come a whole lot of challenges. West Texas is one of the most fragile landscapes of Texas. It is one that degrades the quickest, but it takes the longest to recover. And with that, we're trying to figure out how can we help grassland birds? How do we help scaled quail, uh, black bears, um, desert bighorn sheep, pronghorn, mule deer, anything in between. We do work with soil health, hydrology, a lot of drone work, doing remote sensing, wetlands, sandhill cranes, you name it. If it has life, we touch it, we study it.
Who gets involved in this research? Is it strictly students, or do you have outside organizations or people that come in?
So our backbone of the institute is the students. That's what we produce. Students are the future of conservation, and we're under Sul Ross State University. So our goal and our mission is education. With it, it comes research and outreach, but a whole lot of organizations come together. We've talked about private landowners being certainly a big part of that, but Texas Parks and Wildlife Department is another true partner with us that we work hand in hand with. But there's a lot of nonprofits. Industry is another one. We work with other universities, other conservation groups across the state and the nation. So students are certainly a big component of it, but it's a web. It's a big part of a conservation effort to do what we can to preserve what we have.
What are the challenges facing West Texas today that people might not be thinking about?
The ones that we always think about is certainly drought. West Texas, there's areas that, as a comparison, I use Death Valley. What precipitation do they have compared to the ones we have in certain years? Fragmentation of the land. We depend on these working landscapes. As Texas grows, we need to grow wisely. And part of it is conservation of our natural resources and working landscapes. And there's this transition where there's fewer working landscapes. So I think that's a problem across the state and the Southwest. Habitat degradation, soil erosion. There's new diseases that have come along that we haven't worked with in the past. Desert bighorn sheep with pneumonia. Texas was the only state in the U.S. that desert bighorn sheep did not have pneumonia, and here we are. We now have cases of pneumonia that have wiped out some of our desert bighorn sheep populations. Screwworm is in our backyard, just as it is in other parts of the state. So there's certainly a lot of new challenges from a disease standpoint, and screwworm being another one.
I appreciate you mentioning screwworm because a lot of people will hear that and not recognize that landowners and ranchers have been fighting screwworm for a long time. This isn't new, but it's new to this generation of rancher, and it's definitely new to this cycle of news where everybody's a little bit more involved. So what is the Texas screwworm? What is that screwworm situation?
So it started before I was born. There was a lot of fighting or a lot of efforts to eradicate this worm. For those that don't know what screwworm is, it's a fly, and it lays its eggs in open wounds, and it can be on people, it can be on animals, livestock, wildlife, and basically the the eggs, once they start growing, it starts to eat the flesh of the animal, and that's what causes the problem. This started in the 60s, and the U.S. Was really the tip of the spear, creating the technology and the science on how to push back this fly by creating sterile flies. So it only has babies one time, and then they're done. So if they mate with a sterile fly, then there is no reproduction, and that population decreases over time. That was the idea behind it. So in the 60s, it got pushed all the way down from Texas or the US to Mexico, all the way to Panama. And then it kind of got contained in Panama. But now, throughout the last 10 years or so, there's been cases as it's moving north and into Mexico. It's been in northern Mexico for a year or two. And as the last several months, there's been positive cases detected in Texas. Um, Texas have mostly, if not all, have been in livestock, but Mexico has had some positive cases in wildlife, and those are crossing the border. So one of the measurements of caution and management is they seize the import of livestock from Mexico to the U.S., but we haven't stopped wildlife from crossing the border. And we know that there's cases in Mexico that wildlife have been found with screwworms. So there's certainly a concern there with disease transmissions.
I think that's a great example, though, of why your work is so important. The more we know about the species, the more research we have, the more people like you and your teams can help shift that, whether it's bringing pronghorn back or pushing screwworm back down to Panama. That takes the research and the diligence that you and others are putting into the field. And so it's exciting to see, but it's a full-time sport.
They keep us busy. There's a lot of challenges. Unfortunately, we are not lacking in problems to try to resolve. Our mission, our goal, our role is truly the science and the research. We provide the information, so we're not necessarily the decision makers. We leave that up to other people to make the decisions from the state and federal levels or private landowners. We are simply here to provide more information for people to make educated decisions on how they want to deal with some of these problems. But the more we know, the better prepared we're going to be to deal with these issues.
So who should reach out to Borderlands Research Institute? Like, who should get involved?
Anybody who cares. We do all kinds of events, from truly just research science events to just public outreach. We have Wildlife Weekend where we have people from kindergarten all the way to high school kids to general public. We have our West Texas wildlife meeting coming up, and that's more of a landowner approach. But we have some meetings that we do scientific communication. So we work with everybody in town, other areas, uh, anybody who's interested in conservation, anybody who has any concerns, from landowners, state agencies, nonprofits, federal entities, to somebody that just wants to learn. Our mission is to teach. So if you're interested in learning about West Texas and conservation and any natural resource challenge that we're facing, we're here to help.
Well, and it's a call for donors, people that are interested in helping fund this research as well. I know as a nonprofit, you're always looking for that support. And then students that may have not heard of Sul Ross University, but they have a passion for this type of conversation, for wildlife, for West Texas. I definitely want to give Sul Ross the opportunity to be seen and more students know that that's an option.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I am a living proof of what it is to be out here and to be a Lobo. Um, I love my time here as a student so much I didn't want to leave. Once you have a taste of West Texas, it is the best Texas. And it's a beautiful landscape. It's a beautiful community. The university is doing well. Our Department of Natural Sciences, which I'm the chair now, is biology, geology, and natural resource management. So it's a great university to come to. If hands-on approach is what somebody likes, there is no other university in the state of Texas. Although I'm a little biased, I truly believe that we generate some of the best students out there. For our graduate students under BRI, we have a 95% job placement um, by the day they graduate. So it's a great measure of success, in my opinion. If getting a job once you graduate is your goal, which it should be, we have a great record of putting people where they want to be. It's not just a job, but it's the jobs they want. And a lot of it is because we have the support of people like Nyle Maxwell, landowners that open their gates. We have access to millions of acres in West Texas. Those are our classrooms. We put you outside. We don't just teach you what conservation means or looks like on a textbook. We will put you where conservation is actually needed, and you'll learn from that. So we'll put you to do research, science, and become a leader in our field. Is truly what we're aiming to do. We are a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit that requires a whole lot of support and donations from private entities to nonprofits. We hustle a whole lot. Our faculty are wonderful and looking for grants and proposals. But without that, we can't support our students. And for our graduate students, that comes with scholarships. We cover 90+% of their tuition. We give them a stipend for masters and PhDs. For undergrads, we have a bump program, Borderlands undergrad mentorship program for undergrads to be paid. So it's a job for you to be a scientist, undergraduate students and faculty, where you're going to be paid to collect data, to analyze data, to present that data. We will pay our undergrads to travel to conferences. It's a great time to be here. It's full of opportunities, and if hands-on and science is what you want to do, anything related from soils to hydrology, drone work, black bears, big game, upland game, conservation biology, we're it.
It really is a unique part of the world and a great part of the state. And if you're looking to get involved and hands-on, I couldn't imagine a better place to go to school or a place to move out and get involved.
Absolutely. It is a wonderful place. It's a beautiful landscape. It is, if you've never been to West Texas, I encourage people to come. It's not a place that it's not an empty space between San Antonio and El Paso. There's a whole lot of communities, there's a whole lot of people in between, but there's a whole lot of diversity. I went to school in South Texas, close to the coast, and come into the desert. I thought there would be less species to study, and it turned out that it was a much more diverse landscape, from hot desert scrub to pine trees in the higher elevation, from elk to pronghorn to bighorn sheep and the bottom. Um, it's it's a beautiful place to be. It's very diverse landscape, from plants, non-game species, game species. It's beautiful weather, best weather in the state of Texas, in my opinion.
Well, Lalo Gonzalez, thank you for the way that you're building Texas, and thank you for spending time with me today and helping us understand more about what the Borderlands Research Institute does and the great opportunities that are happening in far west Texas, Alpine, Sul Ross University, and the greater Big Bend region. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for enjoying this episode of the Building Texas Show. We release a new episode every week, and you can find us across all social platforms. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you to our sponsor, Chisos Boots, and their damn comfortable cowboy boots.